Next week is the last full week of the pre-draft, and then a week from Thursday, the picks start coming in. So we're still getting some new information. One big development late this week we'll start off with, but Cerrone, it's getting down to it. Not that many times left to change your opinions, and it feels like everybody's coming up with new ideas this time of year. Oh, I want that. Oh, no, actually, I want this. No, actually, I want this. No, as we get going here this morning, Cerrone, it's getting down to it. The teams are setting their boards, and we're going to get some of these answers soon enough.
Yeah, I think we're going to get more answers, and I think we're going to get a little more clarity on not just answers when it comes to the Patriots, but what everybody else is doing. And I think you can put all those pieces together and kind of form an opinion on what you really believe the Patriots are going to do. And it's finally getting to the exciting times of, once everybody's done with their meetings and all that stuff, and you get, you kind of get a better idea of what's going on. And I can't wait to move on to that process when we start picking names and putting guys in on these rosters.
So again, part of what makes these couple of weeks weird is there's not a ton of new information. And I think we talked about this a little last week, right? We go through the Senior Bowl, we go through the Combine, we go through pro days, 30 visits, and you're either learning about players or maybe teams' preferences or whatever. There's new information. As the 30 visits start to wind down, and they'll officially wrap up this week, as the 30 visits start to wind down, now it's just kind of everybody shooting for the hip. You usually don't get a ton of new information, but we did get this on Friday that Saints quarterback Derek Carr is dealing with a shoulder injury that could put his status for the 2025 season in jeopardy. Why this is coming out now, unless he suffered it bringing in the groceries or whatever, which has happened to athletes. Unless that's the case, I do wonder why this is coming out now. But suddenly, Kellen Moore, in his first year with the Saints, may not have a quarterback. They do have Spencer Rattler, who they took, I believe, in the 5th round last year, but he did not show much to inspire that he can be a 17-game starting quarterback. They do have Jake Haener. He is a backup. But now, suddenly, we've talked about this. If Shedeur Sanders is on the board at 4, which by all likelihood means Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter are gone, that, well, yeah, the Patriots would love to trade back, but is there going to be a market? Are you really going to get what it's worth it? Is any team going to be desperate enough to pay the price to move up? Because if you're the Patriots, you don't want to give away that pick. You don't want to set the precedent. You want to make sure you get what it's worth. Is any team going to pay what it's worth to move up to get a quarterback? Didn't maybe seem like it. Seemed like maybe teams were out on Shedeur Sanders, were out on this class, were willing to wait. Well, now maybe the Saints aren't willing to wait. Maybe you have a trade partner. And that's interesting. Because I think if it was up to the Patriots, they'd love to move back. But you have to get what it's worth. You have to get what the pick is worth. So let me start there. If I'm the Patriots, I am asking for, obviously, 9. Right? You're doing that pick swap. I'm asking for 40.
Yep.
And then I'm asking for a future pick. Ideally, it'd be a future first. And history kind of dictates that. But I understand that this class isn't what most of those classes were. Future second. 940 future second. Maybe I would go down to a future third to get the trade done. Why not a third this year? Those future picks have immense value this year because next year's class is better. And so I would rather have the extra top 100 pick in the better class. And the other thing is, ideally, picking in the top 5 is going to be a rare thing. Ideally, they're not doing that again as long as Mike Vrabel's here, and you're willingly moving out of it. So my point to the Saints on negotiating that is, well, if I'm going to move down this year, you got to give me some ammunition to move back up next year. And a second-round pick is going to do that, maybe even a third. So that's what I'm putting on the table. If the Saints call, we want Shedeur Sanders, I mean, I'm starting a lot more aggressively, but like ultimately what I'm looking for, 940 future second. That's the deal I want to move down from 4 to 9. How about you?
Yeah, I'm making that move. I'm taking that phone call. Put it like that. You want to move up, need a quarterback, and is Sanders the guy, or are you high on the best quarterback out of the SEC, keeping them down that way, and dart from Ole Miss. It's either way. Do you want to move up to try and get this quarterback? Okay, bet. This is what, like you said, I want 9, I want 40. And like you said, a future second or something like that. But that's the baseline. That's the minimum for me to move back that far. If you come with me and say, well, we'll give you, you get first this year, we'll give you a third and maybe a third. No, hang up the phone. It's like you're not serious about this and you're willing to just wait it out. And with your point about the future pick, if they're going to start a rookie quarterback, there's a good chance that future pick's going to be even better next year.
Exactly.
They're going to be a far worse team as opposed to starting a car or a veteran quarterback. And look, I'm taking that future pick. I think that's your only option of moving back right now. Not to say only option. Your biggest option is the Saints moving up to get a quarterback, unless we get to that next week rather, and teams are really, really begging for these quarterbacks. A similar situation last year with when you saw Penix go off the board, J.J. McCarthy and all that stuff. I don't see Will Howard or Dart or Quentin Ewers or these guys just automatically just being the hot item. But we've seen stranger things happen before. But I think right now the Saints are your only hope of a team moving up to try and get that quarterback. My only question about them is, is it gonna be for Sanders? Or are they going to wait and say we can get Dart or somebody like that at 9 as opposed to trying to give up assets to move up to the Patriots slot?
Again, you want to join us on this 617-779-0985 because those extra picks would certainly help the Patriots restore their roster. This is our Restoring the Roster segment brought to you by Blue Sky Restoration Contractors. If your home or business is damaged by a property disaster, call Blue Sky first. With locations across New England, they'll take care of everything from beginning to end. Visit goblusky.com, B-L-U-Sky, no E, blusky.com. Blue Sky Restoration, restoring your property and your life for a brighter tomorrow. Yeah, the one other team, Cerrone, you're looking at there is the Steelers, who you then get on the phone and see if they're interested. Now, they're coming up from 21. That, to me, is a future-first conversation.
Yeah, you're going to have to.
All the way back. And, you're telling the Saints, well, we can get a future one from Pittsburgh, and maybe you're not expecting that from them because they're going to say, well, you're moving down to 9, not 21. But, future consideration, you're going to weigh that. I think just as a whole for this draft, you're not going to see as many future picks move as usual. And when they do move, they are going to be worth more than you would think. There's going to be some trades that seem a little lopsided, I'm guessing, because future picks are involved and they're holding more value. The other potential chip...
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say real quickly. Do you think... I understand the reports about the picks that are going before the Patriots. It seems a lot like Sanders is not going to be in the top 4. If a scenario does happen where the Browns or Giants or whoever take Sanders, and now you got Sanders, Cam Ward off the board, do you think now the teams behind you get real aggressive because it's like, oh, shoot, we got to get the next guy. We can't let, if those two quarterbacks go early, do you think it changes the way not the Patriots be aggressive, but teams get aggressive to try and get that Patriot spot? Or do you think Sanders going early allows them to sit back and say, okay, our guy's going to fall in our lap? Not our guy, but I can get a Dart. I can get Will Howard or somebody else can fall back in our lap. Do you think Sanders going top 4 changes how this trade scenarios work out for the Patriots?
I think that pick has less value. I don't think you're going to have a team fly up the board for Dart or Howard or Milroe or whoever. I think that probably doesn't help the Patriots at that point. Who knows? Maybe teams start panicking. We know they'll do that at the quarterback position. So it's a fair question. The other potential chip in this trade, and I've seen people throw this one out, is Chris Olave. Right? Did the Patriots get a player back? The player everybody's kind of highlighted is Chris Olave, the wide receiver. He is entering the final year of his rookie contract, had 2,000-yard seasons before last year when he was limited to 8 games, caught 32 passes for 400 yards. I guess I'm not against them trading for Chris Olave. I'm not against that. But the idea that, I've seen, just do 4 for 9 in Olave or no, I still want that package of 940 in the future day 2 pick. The thing with Olave for me, this is a guy that's had 4 concussions in 3 years, including 2 last year. He had to step away and see a specialist last year about the head injuries. I don't know how many more, he's one concussion away probably from being done.
Yeah.
And so if you move back out of the top 5 and you get a receiver who doesn't have a future potentially, that's a mistake. So if the Saints want to throw Olave in, and
I was about to say as a throw-in, okay.
Yeah, and I don't mean this to like disparage the guy. He's a really good player, and it's very unfortunate he's dealing with these head injuries, but this is the business side of it, right? Mm-hmm. If they want to include Olave, fine. I'm not going to not take Chris Olave, and maybe the Patriots throw in a day 3 pick to get that done. Chris Olave does not replace what they need to get in this trade, which is essentially including that 9th pick, 3 top 100 picks. Yeah. That's what you need to get to make this trade. If Olave's also in there, great. Wonderful. That would be cool. Mm-hmm. Maybe you send, again, a day 3 pick back. Maybe you send like Kendrick Bourne back. Chris Olave does not replace anything in this deal for me if I'm the Patriots, because you don't know where he's at physically, that if he gets another concussion early on and he's done, well, now you just moved back for nothing.
Yeah, and you still need you still have that same hole next year. You still have to, and you have one less pick to fill it, because you decided on a player over the pick. So there's so many things that can go wrong there. But like you said, if you're going to give me 40, then you're going to give me 940, and then next year second, and throw Chris. Okay, fine. Now we're talking. But don't take one of those picks off the board just to get Olave. That's not going to happen, because you're going to be out of. You could potentially be out of both at some point next season. You're not going to have the pick, and he could be on IR. So I don't think that's worth the risk unless you're throwing him on top of several picks that are coming along with that deal.
Right. Again, good player, but there's a significant risk there that in this scenario is not worth taking. I'd much rather have that extra pick, especially, again, I'm going to keep hammering this. The future picks. That's what I want if I'm the pick. Heck, 9, a future first and a future third. I might even do that. Like, not even pick up extra picks this year, but get a future first. I'd have to take a little longer look at it. I just kind of came up with that off the top of my head. But, like, I'm all about the future picks this year. That's what I want.
Yeah, because you're going to get, if you have a future, let's say a future first or second or something like that, you're going to get a younger version of Chris Olave next year in the draft.
Hopefully. Because
of the receiver class. So I think you're going to be better off with that pick next year as opposed to getting Olave.
All right, off and running here on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff. Trade down talk on the table. What about a trade up? A lot of you guys have been asking me about this. We haven't really talked about it. So let's address a potential trade up for the Patriots. Plus your call, 617-779-0985, when we're back here on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
Stay tuned for more Sunday Kickoff on the Sports Hub.
Draft season is here, and is your garage a
Lee has planned to take 4 visits, which, makes sense, because he doesn't want to, and this is something we saw with Marvin Harrison last year, where Marvin Harrison didn't do medicals at the combine, and his logic was, I don't want to give every team in the league my medical information when I know there's no way I'm going to fall out of the top 5. What was interesting about the way the Browns handle it, which is another kind of smoking gun that they're not taking a quarterback, with the second pick, is that night they had the owner, Jimmy Haslam, the GM, Andrew Berry, the owner's son-in-law, who's an executive vice president, out to dinner in State College with Abdul Carter ahead of his pro day, which he wasn't even working out at. But the head coach wasn't there. Stefanski was in Mississippi to go see Jackson Dart throw at his pro day. And Jackson Dart isn't going to be the second pick in the draft. So, that tells you what they're looking at doing is taking Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter at 2 and then turning around and maybe getting a quarterback on the second day.
That's Albert Breer this week, talking about plans at the top of the draft. Will Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter be gone? What if the Patriots don't want to wait? What if the Patriots say, no, we need to be picking top 3 in this draft? We need one of those 2 players. Would they trade up? It's a question I've gotten a lot. I haven't talked about a lot. But it's a question I've gotten a lot from Patriots fans. And so just to talk about it a little bit, because that's what pre-draft is all about, going through scenarios, going through these different exercises. I don't know that it makes a ton of sense, not for the Patriots, as much as these other teams. All right, so trading up to 3. Let's say that it's Ward, obviously, at the top, and then one of Carter or Hunter, so the other one's there. If you're the Giants, you're doing one of 2 things. You're either taking the other blue chip player or you're taking a quarterback. If you're taking the blue chip player, you're not going to trade out of that spot because you're not going to get him, even if you move back one spot. It's going to take the Patriots an insane amount, more than they realistically should give up, to move up to get him. And if the Giants are taking a quarterback, well, then you don't need to make the trade because that guy's just going to fall to you anyway. And it's kind of the same thing at 2. If that team's going to take a blue chip player, you're going to take him at 2. If you move down to 4, you might not get him. Now, you might be betting on the Giants taking a quarterback. You might have better odds there, but are you going to take that risk? And right now, it seems like the Giants aren't going to take a quarterback at 3. And on the flip side, if the Browns are going to take a quarterback, why would the Patriots make the trade? The Browns are going to take quarterback at 2, then one of those guys is going to fall, so you don't need to move up to get him. So it's a nice thought. I guess just I don't necessarily follow the logic in it, Cerrone, because the teams up there aren't going to give one of those players up. And if they're taking a quarterback, what's the incentive for the Patriots to trade when they can just get that player at 4?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I'm going to say we don't know for sure what these guys are going to do up that are headed to Patriots. That's an interesting thing what Bray was saying about the Browns. The coach is going to see Jackson Dart. The owner's eating steak dinners with Abdul Carter. It's just mad weird. But, yeah, I mean, with the Patriots, look, if they're high on Carter or if they're high on Hunter and you feel that these are franchise guys, I understand in order to move up to get one of those guys, you're going to have to basically, I wouldn't say give up the rest of your draft, but you're going to have to give up assets that you probably don't want to lose.
Well, look, we were just talking about for the Saints to move up. As the Patriots, without these blue chip guys on the board, we were talking about a first, a second, and a future top 50. Mm-hmm. In this case,
to do that?
Right, and in this case, it's probably going to cost more.
Yeah.
If I'm the Browns or Giants, and you're asking me to give up drafting Abdul Carter, or Travis Hunter in this draft, I'm asking for a future first. I don't know that I'm staying on the phone for anything less than that.
Yeah.
Are you giving up do you like either of those guys that much that you'd give up next year's first round pick if you're the Patriots? I don't. I think they're tremendous players. I don't like them that much. So I just think it's tough to see ultimately why that makes sense for either side. Obviously, for the Patriots, it makes sense to get a better player, but like, I don't know that you're ultimately walking away in a better situation if you move up. If you're the Patriots,
if you move up, right? It's like I got my guy, I got Abdul Carter, but next year I'm out of a first round pick,
right,
or a second round pick or something like that. Oh, well, no, I'm out a pick this year and probably a first, a second next year. But I got my guy, I got Abdul Carter. Now I don't know if anybody in the building is high enough on those players to do something like that, if they feel strongly about them, or if they feel that Carter is a true game wrecker and a key to their whole thing. I mean, I think they would feel that way more about Carter than they probably would Hunter and Will Campbell or somebody like that. But yeah, I'm wondering what they would be willing to lose. Not give a willing. What are you willing to lose to get Abdul Carter or somebody like that on your roster? And how strongly do you really feel about these guys ahead of you? But yeah, I understand what you're saying. If you just sit back and wait, things might just unfold in front of you and you don't have to do anything. But it's an interesting scenario, because I think it's something that we never really touched on. How desperate are the Patriots for one of those guys that could be just out of their reach, and are they willing to sit back and let the lesser of the two or three guys, whatever, fall into their lap? I guess that's the overall question.
All right, let's go to the phones. Deshaun in Virginia on a different kind of trade up for the Patriots. Deshaun, good morning.
Good morning, guys. How you guys doing?
Good. How we doing?
Good morning.
Good. What I've thought about for like months before this draft come April is that remember when the Rams were quite about moving up or whatever, but they kept Matthew Stafford, but who's to say that they actually will still be content on having Matthew Stafford and not have somebody in there waiting for when Matthew Stafford is gone? So if I'm the Patriots, I mean, I'd be really looking for one of those teams that's willing to move up from the 20s, and my trade package would be I'd be asking for a future first, a second, this year's second, a third, and a fourth. That'd be my package for the ones willing to move up from the 20s. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, thanks, Deshaun. We kind of talked about that earlier. I'm with you. If you're going back,
That
Steelers
far.
at 21, certainly the Rams at 26.
You're going to have to give me everything.
Yeah. Well, Herschel Walker, right, was traded for an entire draft.
You're going to have to give me everything.
Yeah. Throw
Ricky
Puka in
Williams,
there.
I think the Ricky Williams trade was something like that.
Ricky Williams, you're right. No,
Yeah.
that's anything to me past. I'm trying to think of where the quarterback teams are, like realistically, but anything outside of the first half of the first round, a future first is non-negotiable.
Yeah,
14, and if you can get that,
once
great.
you pass 14, that's it.
Right, 14's a good, and that's great. Like if you can get Pittsburgh's future first, they're going to finish over 500. But like, however far you're moving back, this would be my approach specifically this year for where the Patriots are at. However far you're moving back, you need to be given the assets to move up next year a similar amount. So if you have a first next year from Pittsburgh, even if it is like 21 again, let's say the Patriots have a decent season, they're picking like 10, 11, 12, something like that. 10 and 21 should get you into the top 5.
Mm-hmm. Right, now you can jump right back in.
Right. Whereas if you're moving from 4 to 9, you probably don't need a future first to equate that move up. But if you can get a future second, that'll help you. Like, if I'm moving back, this is basically what I'm saying to teams. All right, if you want me to move back, you got to give me something for next year so I can move back up next year, the equivalent. That's what I'm looking for. And then a pick this year as well. Let's go to Randy in Providence on the draft and Mike Vrabel. Randy.
Yeah, hi. I don't know if you guys remember it the same way, but when Mike was in Tennessee, I remember there being at least one draft where we felt like he jumped Bill in New England to kind of snipe a player that we were into. And I cannot remember the player off the top of my head. Maybe you guys can. But
wasn't it Harold Landry?
It might have been. It might have been. And I'm curious if you guys think, because this past week, it seems to me like Tennessee is probably targeting Kyle Williams, right? Their OC used to be his at UNLV. He used to play with Cam Ward. If they take Cam Ward, that makes sense. So they don't have a third-round pick, so it would have to be the second. Would there be any scenario where you guys could see Vrabel trying to leapfrog his old team, just not only just to kind of stick it to him, but Kyle Williams is a great prospect. They've had him in for a visit. They had him and Noel in for a visit. And while Noel is a great athlete, a little bit better athletically than Kyle Williams, Kyle Williams on the field is a little bit better return after the catch, missed tackles, that sort of thing. So what would you guys think about that? And then just to add on to what you guys are saying about trading up, I think people thinking about trading up should remember that the higher you go, the greater value there is between the picks. So the difference between 4 and 2 is the same as the difference between 4 and 16.
Yep. Good point, Randy. Thanks for the call. I don't know if Vrabel's looking at this saying, I got to get up above the Titans to burn them. But, if they move up the thing is, if they're moving up in the second round there, I think there are going to be better receivers on the board than Kyle Williams, right? If Luther Burden falls, you're talking about the Patriots are at 38. I think the Titans are at 35, I want to say. There's going to be better receivers on the board there, but would they jump Titans are 35. Would the Patriots jump the Titans from 38 to 35? Yeah, I think they would.
Could, potentially, yeah.
And I don't necessarily think it's anything about Vrabel having ill will. I think it just makes sense to trade up. I actually had in a mock draft I did this week on 98.5thesportshub.com, that trade, the Patriots swapping with the Titans, that's the Ladd McConkey trade. Jeez.
Yep.
That's the Ladd McConkey trade from last year, but the Patriots on the other side of it, the team moving up this time. Or maybe they swap with the Giants. They go from 38 to 34 to jump the Titans and get a receiver or get a tackle if they go somewhere else at the top of the draft. Trading up from 38 into the late first or early second makes a lot of sense for the Patriots.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether Vrabel wants to burn the Titans or not. If it's more incentive to do it, all the better. But I think they should be looking to make a trade around that range, no matter who's picking there.
Yeah, I got a feeling that this, it's been real quiet. Again, another week with no trades. I think we've talked about this for 3 weeks now. Yeah. Another week, no trades, whatever. I got a feeling once this thing starts, second and third round picks are going to be moving around like crazy. I think there's going to be a lot of trades with teams moving not far, but like you said, up 3 spots, back 3 spots, up another spot, because I think there's going to be a lot of talented guys, but not because I don't think the gap between these players is so wide in some of these positions that guys are specifically wanting that particular guy. And I think, I can get my guy if I wait. I can get this guy if I move up 2 spots. I got a feeling that second round is going to be crazy, and Schefter is going to be popping up left and right with a bunch of little trades. Not major moves, but up a spot, back a spot. I can see a lot of movement in the second and third round in this draft.
Yeah, it's a good point that everybody kind of stood pat in the first, and teams are maybe getting trigger happy to start making those trades.
Yeah,
and do we start seeing it later on? So you want to weigh in on that? 617-779-0985. You want to talk draft with us? You want to talk draft trades with us? I want to get into the Patriots Hall of Fame stuff in a little bit as well. But right back to your calls after this on the Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
Sunday Kickoff is on the way on the Sports Hub.
With over 30 TVs plus wings, burgers, and beers served by the Hooters girls, there's no better place to watch the C's playoff games than your local Hooters. Don't miss a minute of the action. Get to Hooters in Saugus, Dedham, West Springfield, or Shrewsbury tonight. Hooters makes you happy.
Get on up and get on down to Hooters.
Mainly Tubs' huge annual warehouse clearance sale is here. Say goodbye to stress and sore muscles. Immerse yourself in the ultimate hydrotherapy with a saltwater-ready hot spring or caldera hot tub. Take fitness and fun to the next level with an endless pool swim spa. And right now, get free music and surface kit upgrades with your purchase. We're talking massive savings with 0% APR for 60 months, but only for a limited time. These deals won't last. Shop Mainly Tubs' huge annual warehouse clearance sale now through April 14th.
As America's leading business lender, Bank of America is on your corner and in your corner. With over $10 billion in business loans and more than 100 business specialists right here in Greater Boston, we help businesses thrive so communities prosper. What would you like the power to do? Learn more at bankofamerica.com/local business. Bank of America, official bank of FIFA Club World Cup 2025. Copyright 2025 Bank of America Corporation, all rights reserved.
Hey, it's Zone. Design your dream outdoor space with Techo Block and South Shore Landscape Supply. Techo Block is redefining outdoor living with their philosophy of reshaping the idea of what landscapes can look like by stepping outside the ordinary. Check out Techo Block, North America's leading manufacturer of paving stones, at South Shore Landscape Supply at 171 VFW Drive in Rockland. Techo Block is something for everyone. South Shore Landscape Supply. Huge selection, endless possibilities. Learn more at sslandscapesupply.com.
While retinitis pigmentosa takes Mark's vision, his family gives him hope, whether at the family business or at home with his wife and sons. He knows he's not fighting alone. For 50 years, the Foundation Fighting Blindness has funded research into treatments and cures for blinding retinal diseases, providing hope to people with vision loss. And for Mark, winning the fight means being there for his family. The Foundation Fighting Blindness. Together, we're winning. Help us end blinding diseases at fightingblindness.org.
Tune into the Bruins Radio Network today for the delivery of the game. Delivered by Granite City Electric's GCE Nitrate. Electrical contractors, get on board the GCE Nitrate. Order your materials to be delivered overnight to the job site the following morning, guaranteed, and save time and money. Go to GCEnitrate.com to order.
Hi, I just bought a new car and I need plates.
You got no insurance stamp on this form. I can't process your plates. Go to your insurance agent and have it stamped. See you tomorrow. Next!
Wait, what do I need? My online insurance told me I was all set.
Come here, love. In the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you need an insurance stamp. These online guys don't know. You should have used a local insurance agency like A Affordable. These guys are great. Wicked good rates, awesome customer service, and A Affordable can even issue plates at all of their Mass locations.
A Affordable. I know where they are. I'll be right back.
Next!
Visit a-affordableinsurance.com or call 800-89-SAVES. A Affordable.
Nobody can beat us. You really need us. A Affordable Auto Insurance.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated the best hearing aids of 2025 by Forbes Health, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, starting at just $98 a pair.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 1 million happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
Hey Boston, did winter kick your asphalt?
The Moreland family here with Asphalt Engineering.
Our team of paving experts are on deck and ready to meet your goals. Driveways, parking lots, that's Asphalt Engineering's field. Like Boston Sports, we are crushing it into our 20th season. Give us a call today at 877-411-PAVE.
Asphalt Engineering, local, family-owned and operated, hard-earned 5-star reputation.
877-411-PAVE.
Get what you're paving for.
Call Asphalt Engineering today. Still kicking asphalt after 20 years.
Hi, it's Ryan Johnston. Join Bob Beers and me for the call of today's game on the Bruins Radio Network. Driven by the versatile Honda CR-V, available at your local New England Honda dealers. The puck drops today at 3:30.
Listen to it, laugh at it, get mad at it, agree with it, argue about it. It is Boston Sports. Boston Sports. And it is all we do. 98.5, the Sports Hub. You're listening to Sunday Kickoff with Alex Barth and Cerrone Battle on your station for the best football coverage. 98.5, the Sports Hub.
Here on the Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff. Let's go to Walter in Boston. A trade-heavy talk early on. I think Walter's going to weigh in on that.
Hey,
Walter,
what's going on, guys?
Hey.
You guys are really right about. I think all the trades are going to be at the start of in the second round, start of the second round, because this is, if you look at this draft, this is a good draft for plug-and-play guys, and that's what the Pat need. They have so many needs. They need to just draft guys who they can get starters out of right away. And you brought up before, like I forget his name right now, the receiver from Colorado, the big one, the 6'4" one, and maybe the kid Horton from Colorado State. You can get them guys in maybe like the 4th and 5th round. So say if you can get Noel or Burden like in the second, you draft for all your other needs and pick up somebody later. You know what I'm saying? Another receiver later.
Yeah. Thanks for the call. Oh, sorry, I cut you off there. The receiver from Colorado, he's talking about Will Shepard. You might be able to get him in the 7th. Torrey Horton's probably going to go in the 4th. It is a plug-and-play draft. I heard somebody say this week, it's not a star draft, but it is a starter draft. Mm-hmm. You're not going to get stars, but you are going to get – there's not as many stars as there are in the typical draft, but there's probably more day one starters than there are in a typical draft.
I was going to ask you, going with that, what makes – I guess it's the question for another day, but what makes a draft a great draft? Are we saying this draft is a bad draft? You hear Universe is a not bad draft, a down draft. Is it simply because it's not so quarterback dominant that we say the whole draft is bad? Like you see strong running back positions, or a left tackle is not as strong, I guess, this year. There seems to be a ton of receivers. Like overall, linebackers, edge rushers, is the whole draft just down, or are people calling it a down draft because it's not the sexy positions? There's not a ton of quarterbacks and not a ton of let's say, left tackles or something like that.
I think that's part of it. Part of it, too, it is the overall collection of talent, and you have some stronger positions, running back, tight end, defensive tackle, but even within those, like, you look at the kind of players that you think have that all-pro upside, and there's just not as many of them maybe available as there would be in another year. The lack of talent at premium positions is definitely a part of it. I'm not going to say it's not. It is. Mm-hmm. But some of it, and quarterback certainly, but there have been good drafts that aren't necessarily quarterback drafts. Like that 2022 draft, I think is a worse quarterback year than this year. Mm-hmm. That was considered a good draft. It was considered kind of trench heavy. It was considered a good draft. The other thing is that one was defense heavy. I think that's another part of it. Okay. Just in the fantasy football culture, there's not a ton of guys at the top of this draft you're going to draft in fantasy football. Mm-hmm. Right? Think about it. Some of the best players in this draft, Abdul Carter, Will Campbell, Mason Graham, Armand Membu, Jalen Walker. These are not guys you're taking in fantasy.
Yeah.
These are not guys whose jersey you're probably going out and getting, the average fan. Mm-hmm. There's not those kinds of players, not players. You're not betting these guys overs. But they're really good football players, and it's just in the fantasy football culture, they're not the players that put up the sexy statistics. So I think that's part of it, too. Yeah. I've said this. I don't think this draft is as bad as people have made it out to be. I don't think it's a great draft. You go back a few years. I've really, kind of done this since 2018. I think it's the weakest overall class I've done. But I don't think it's so mind-blowingly. Yeah. I think it's that's where the difference maker is like, the quarterback position, the left tackle position. This wide receiver class has a lot of depth, but there's a lot of players with questions. You don't have that Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, sort of prospect. You don't have that sort of prospect in this draft, which I think drags it down. But who knows? Like the draft is a big unknown. Maybe
it turns 4 Hall of Famers.
Right. Who knows how many Hall of Famers are actually in here? But just coming into it, there's more projection. There's more guys that are more ceiling than floor. That sort of thing. There's more unknowns, really. That's how I'd best sum it up. We've talked about this, that after you get through those first couple guys, there are some good prospects, but they all have significant questions. Graham, Campbell, Genty, Membu, Warren, McMillan, like you go down the list. It's not to say they're going to be bad players, but they have one thing or another, a significant question or questions they're going to have to answer. You usually don't see those significant kind of questions that high in the draft. There's fewer true first-round picks in this draft than there are normally. But I would also say there's more second-round picks, players that are traditional second-round picks than there are normally. So you're going to be drafting guys who are traditional second-round picks in the first round. It's just going to take more to max them out. Speaking of a player who is rising up draft boards, let's go to Josh in Turner Falls. Josh.
Hey, morning, guys. How you doing? So, full disclosure, I know that maybe Jalen Walker shouldn't be the pick at 4. I love him. I don't see a huge difference between him and Hunter, and if Hunter's gone, I think it's kind of, there he is. My question to you guys is it really worth – I'm starting to think that Campbell should, or Membu, if that's who they want. With the linemen first, I think that you can get better players with less moving up later on maybe you're looking at a Knoll in the second round. Maybe Makuba comes up in the third because you're not having to give up those picks to get up to get that tackle in the first or the second. So I'm just wondering, would you, if you could get like Walker, have to give up a third to get up to get Ursery or Connerly or maybe Simmons if that's who they want, and then you end up with like a Jalen Royals, who I actually really like in the third, but you give up a third-round pick. Is it better just to take the tackle you like it for, so that way maybe you don't have to move as much, and then there's kind of best player available the rest of the draft? And that's my question for you guys. Have a great day.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Josh. Assuming that they believe in the tackle, that's certainly part of the conversation. They need to add somebody. They know they need to add somebody. So, All right, if we have this box checked, now that's purely drafting for need, which you might not want to do, but if they look at it and say, okay, well, Will Campbell, Jalen Walker, Mason Graham, right, all on the board, we have them all graded similarly, that's a very reasonable tiebreaker. That's where drafting for need comes in. If they're sitting there and they think, well, Jalen Walker's a much better player than Will Campbell, no, then you do that and you move up and you take the tackle because you ultimately need to come away with the better player. But you can certainly use that as a tiebreaker, all things even. And yeah, it does give you more flexibility moving on. I wouldn't hate the idea of them moving up for wide receiver still, but that draft that the caller just laid out, if they go Will Campbell, Jalen Knoll, who's a very explosive slot receiver from Iowa State, and Andrew Makuba, who's a safety from Texas, and he's a true deep safety. He's not a box. Like, he's going to complement the guys they have. He's not going to overlap the guys they have. If that's their first three picks,
I'm good.
That would be great. That would be that would be like towards best case scenario for me. I would love that draft, man. That would be awesome. They still probably got to get an edge rusher and maybe a guard. They would have another top 100 pick because now they're not trading and you have that other third. So maybe you get a guy like, I'm trying to think who the edge rushers are there.
James Pierce, Tennessee.
Have James Pierce at 77, absolutely. Or a guy like Wyatt Milam to play guard or somebody like that, or one of the Georgia guys. Like, that would be an awesome draft. That would be an awesome draft if they can pull that off. I'll tell you that right now.
Because you check the boxes. You get your that safety position. I mean, you've been talking about that position for 2 years. And you factor him in with the additions they've made in the secondary already and on defense. Now you're really cooking if you put a true free safety back there behind what they already have. I'm all in for that draft.
That would be great. I would enjoy that. Let's go to Vic in Virginia on the Saints in a potential trade.
No. So I'm sorry. I said what I was trying to say was that trading Milton so early because of the Saints situation is what kind of upset me. That situations like that, you could have got maybe more from Milton than what you got. But my ideal draft situation was I really do want the Pats to get the best offensive weapon. And I feel like Ozzie Trapeo in the third would help the offensive line and just get the best offensive weapon for whether it's Warren, whether it's McMillan. I just feel like that's the best thing for the Patriots right now, or even Genty.
I was going to say the best. Thanks for the call, Vic. The best offensive player on the board at 4, if you're just talking about the best player, is going to be Ashton. Ashton Genty might be the best player, period, on the board at 4. Are you comfortable taking a running back that high? That's the question, but he's going to be the best player on the board. As for the Joe Milton thing, we talked about this last week. I understand that maybe they wanted to move him and set up the quarterback room a certain way, and I'm not against that in theory. Did they have to do it when they did? But as it relates to the Saints, I guess to be fair, I kind of touched on this. I brushed by it at the beginning of the show, and I didn't get your thoughts on it, Cerrone. There's no way the Saints are just finding out right now.
No, I'm going to say they knew. I was going to say that after you talk about Joe Milton's situation. It's like we didn't know, but the Saints knew he was dealing with these issues. This is not new. They put it out there at the time they wanted to put it out there, but they knew.
Yeah, like $125 million quarterback. You're going to know if his shoulder hurts. I'd hope.
Know everything.
I'd certainly hope. I don't know why they're putting it out now. I don't know how that benefits them. If anything, it hurts them if they're trying to move up. Now teams know how desperate they are, unless they just knew it was going to leak and wanted to get out ahead of it. Maybe that's it. I don't know why they put that out there right now. It's tough to gauge, but I'm going to guess they knew. If they thought Joe Milton was the answer, they probably would have called the Patriots. And if they didn't know, they have much bigger problems, and I'm not sure you would have been hearing from them. So I wouldn't hate if the Patriots waited, but I'd be very surprised if the Saints didn't. All right, we'll grab one more call to wrap up this hour. We'll come back. We're bringing back the Pick'em segment, by the way. Start the 9 o'clock hour. A little off-season Pick'em segment going on, but we'll wrap up the hour with Rob and Indy. Rob, how you doing?
Good morning, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Morning.
I'm not a big fan of drafting the tight end in the first round, but if they have to, but they take a look at that kid from Penn State. He's supposed to be comparisons like Brock Bowers, and if they can draft him, have him play next to Hunter Henry, and you kind of go back to a Gronkowski, Hernandez dual tight end situation. I kind of give him more options. What's your thoughts on that? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Rob. I don't think he'd be a bad pick. I don't think Tyler Warren would be a bad pick. I don't think he's the best pick they can make. Certainly at 4. Makes a little more sense if they trade back. He is... he's not similar to Brock Bowers stylistically. The similarity to Brock Bowers is tight end generally. That is one of the longer developing positions in the NFL. What made Brock Bowers such an outlier wasn't just how good he was. It was him being as good he was that quickly. Because usually the tight end position has become such a throwaway. It's so ignored in college, and it's becoming so much more important and involved in the NFL. You're really like learning a whole new position when you go to the league, and it takes guys 2 to 3 years. Tyler Warren looks more NFL ready than the majority of tight end prospects that have come through the draft in recent years. Now, part of the reason is he's older. He's, I believe, going to be a 24-year-old rookie, 23 or 24, and he only has 1 year of significant production. He's going to be a 23-year-old rookie. He'll turn 23 next month. And he only has 1 year of significant production. So guys that don't break out until later, if you remember, we did this with Michael Penix last year, that generally suggests a lower ceiling. Floor is high, but it generally suggests a lower ceiling. You're also kind of tying yourself into being a 2 tight end offense if that's the pick. Now, maybe that's what the Patriots want to do. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is something you're committing to if you're the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking of a player stylistically that compares a younger player.
Yeah.
And I couldn't think of his name. Sam Laporta, tight end from Detroit.
Yeah.
Kind of an old school more tight end, more of a traditional tight end role. And I'm not sure where he went in the draft. He made an impact for the Lions.
Early second?
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
Because he kind of, I wouldn't say exploded out of nowhere, but he kind of took off for them. But I think part of it was because they had the other pieces to kind of allow him to take off. And I think with the Patriots, as much as I would love to have that tight end in there, I think they need the other pieces first to kind of allow not just, well, Hunter Henry had a good season last year. The tight ends overall, I think, were the lone bright spot of the Patriots offense. But I think the left tackle is more important. I think the outside help right now was more important. And because you have tight ends that can actually play. So I wouldn't bypass positions of true need to bring a tight end in. But look, I think he'd be explosive with Drake May, but I think you have to address the other issues first before you go tight end.
617-779-0985. You want to talk draft with us? You want to talk Patriots with us? Just cleared the phone line, so if you want to hop back on, again, 617-779-0985. But coming up next, let's reset the board. There's been a lot of, in on prospects, out on prospects, this guy, that guy, whatever. Let's just go through. We'll include Tyler Warren in that. Just go through and reset our thoughts on some of the top players in the draft, because I feel like it's been a while since we talked about these players in this way. The Pick'em segment return next on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
More Sunday Kickoff coming up on the Sports Hub.
This is Sean Grande.
You pick it.
Take your pick.
Pick me. Pick me.
I did not pick. There was no pick.
Pick him up. You pick him up.
Pick.
I pick.
Pick me.
Take the teams.
Pick one, jerk.
So not exactly picks, but anytime I could put a list together, Ryan Beaton, the former producer of the show, did such a good job of putting that open together. Want to make sure we get a chance to use it as much as possible. It's Alex, Barth and Cerrone Battle with you on the Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff. Kyle Fabrizio back behind the board this morning. If you want to talk to us, you got to talk to him first. 617-779-0985. He'll get you lined up to get on the phone. But first, let's get into this with what's going to be the Pick'em segment here, Cerrone. So basically I figured we've done this whole roundabout thing, talking big picture about the picks and things like that the last few weeks. Let's reset where we are on some of these players. So I figure we'll just go. I pulled out the top, I think I did 9 or 10 players in this draft, and just 2 quick thoughts on each. The thing you'd be the happiest about or the most excited for, the most encouraging thing, whatever, if the Patriots take that player, and then what your biggest question or concern would be if the Patriots take that player. And let's start off with the Heisman winner, Travis Hunter.
Hunter steps up. Hunter dives. Touchdown, Colorado.
All right, Travis Hunter. My biggest, the most exciting thing. I think he is really the only player in this draft that has true wide receiver 1 coverage dictating receiver upside. That they might finally have a shot at getting that guy after all these years. My biggest question, well, he's never played receiver full time. In the development with the wide receivers coach and Todd Downing, who's never coached the position, can they get him to that potential? So it's kind of one and the same. But that's where I'm looking at him purely as a receiver at this point. And I'm excited about it, but I'm also nervous about it.
Yeah, my almost similar answers here. I mean, I think he's a true playmaker. I think in every sense of the word. I mean, along the lines of like the Chris Carters. I'm just going to catch touchdowns. Like I think a guy like him in the red zone, all these things. I think he's a superstar. He could be a superstar caliber player on and off the field for this team. Something that I think they need big time. The negatives, again, like you said, playing a position full time and not just getting the development right, health reasons. He went down a few times. It's a couple years in Colorado. I wonder, can he fill out? Can he get bigger in his frame to where if he takes the shots over the middle or takes some of the big hits, could he hold up? But outside of that, I think he's a true potential superstar in this league.
It's a fair point. It's a good question. He is going to have to kind of bulk up a little bit in the NFL. Let's get to the other blue chip prospect, Abdul Carter. Kyle, how many of these are Gus Johnson? I'm okay if it's a lot.
I tried to find as many as I could.
Excellent. We should have thrown Jack Sawyer in here just to get that call of the interception on the goal line against Michigan. Abdul Carter, biggest plus. It's easy. Best player in the draft. They got the best player in the draft. And that would be the thing I'd be most excited about. Honestly, I know there's some worries about Carter's mental makeup. My biggest concern, how are you going to get Drake May help after using the 4th overall pick on Carter? Are you still going to be able to make significant investments around Drake May?
Yeah. I mean, Carter, I think with the defensive additions you've had, plus the guys they had last year, coming back healthy, things like that, I think putting him out there makes your defense elite. I think now you've gone from being a top 10 defense potentially to being one of the better top 5 defenses in the league. Now you're getting after the quarterback. Now you're forcing fumbles. You're forcing interceptions, which are additions you've made in the secondary. All these things, you've made your defense explosive. But at the end of the day, your offense is still going to be the Patriots offense. And I think coming into the season, the biggest additions on this Patriot team right now was getting Drake May help, getting him protection, getting him guys that can catch the football, and even running backs. I think you kind of set yourself back offensively to be a dominant defense, and I think that's the only true negative with Abdul Carter. It's not his fault.
So maybe those two a little less realistic. We'll get into the more realistic names now. Let's start with Will Campbell, tackle from LSU.
So now all of a sudden, an arm length decides if I'm a good player or not. I think it's BS.
So biggest positive, kind of like with the Travis Hunter pick, they've needed a left tackle for so long, and they have one. And yes, he is a left tackle. I don't think he's going to have to move inside. I really don't. 33-inch arms, those will play. He's tremendously talented. You get a leader. You get a guy in the locker room. He probably checks more boxes for them than any player in this draft. I really think he does. The con is he doesn't have the typical prototype build for left tackle. I still think he can get by, but I think now you maybe are investing in left guard somewhere else in the top 100. I think getting a good left guard to play next to him would be truly maximizing that pick. And it doesn't have to be 38, but maybe one of those third rounders. I'd like to see him, make a point of getting a plug and play left guard if they took Campbell.
Yeah, I think the upside here is, this is the position we've been talking about for 2 years that they need the most help. You're in a position now to land an All-American left tackle who did it on the highest level of college football in the SEC and did it for a couple of years. I think Will Campbell he's the protection that Drake May needs. I think he's the smart pick. I think I wouldn't say the safest pick, but for what you need, yes, I'd take Will Campbell and I'd pair him up with Drake May until they both retire if I could. And I think the negative is we're not sure if he's going to be a all-pro or just a good left tackle. I think that's what we're really splitting hairs about here. And I think he would be what this team needs the most and would allow the rest of the offense to really flourish by having Drake May's blindside protected for the next decade or so.
Well, he's not the only tackle at the top of the board. How about Armand Membu?
Seemed like he let out a primal scream every 10 yards, and then the last 10 was just one long scream.
That was after his impressive 40, and that's kind of my biggest upside. Tremendous athlete at the position. Rare kind of athlete at the tackle position. I think Josh McDaniels, you don't talk often about getting creative with offensive linemen, and that doesn't necessarily mean like throwing them passes and tackle-eligible stuff, but, in the run game, pulling guys and things like that. He'd give him a rare athlete at that position. We've seen, and I'm not comparing the players outright, but like what a guy like Penei Sewell allows you to do when you have a true athlete at that position, but it's not his natural position. He'd have to be switching sides, which does worry me. They've tried that here the last couple of years, and it has not worked. And it's hardly a guarantee that he's seamlessly going to be able to go from right to left.
Yeah, in complete agreement. I think a couple things. I think he's potentially can be a solid tackle in this league because of his athleticism and because of his speed, quickness, all those things. I think he'd be extremely dominant in the run game. I think, like you said, getting a guy like him downfield as your lead blocker, meeting guys in the hole in the gap, I think he'd be explosive at that. Again, like last year, previous years, shuffling guys from left to right in different positions I don't think is the way to go for this team. I think they need stability up front. I think we need to know every week who's at left tackle, who's at right tackle, who's your guards, who's your center. And I think you need more consistency there. And drafting a guy that early to try and slide left to right because we're not sure, I don't think it's something you want to do. Look, if you was able to pick to get him a little later in the first, sure. But I think the downside is he's not a left tackle, and it's the position you need the most.
We've also got some players that have built up some steam this week, in particular Jalen Walker.
Pressure from Jalen Walker, their leading sack man.
Biggest plus, Vrabel's going to know how to use him. And they're going to be able to get him. He's a multi-positional player, which I think scares some people. I kind of like it for the Patriots specifically. I think Mike Vrabel's going to get the most, and Terrell Williams are going to get the most out of a guy like that. The position thing doesn't worry me so much. It's the size. He's just a little undersized, especially if he's going to be playing off the ball a bit. And is that going to kind of force their hand to, you see this player on tape, you come up with all the fun ways that you can deploy him, but like physically, is he going to be up for some of those at the NFL level? But I actually don't doubt. I think a lot of people's biggest concern is he's a tweener. That doesn't bother me. That actually kind of excites me for the way they run their defense. I think they get creative with how they use him.
Yeah, again, similar to Abdul Carter, explosive player. Explosive in many different ways. Super athlete, dominant again, SEC player, dominant on the highest level. True playmaker. Be able to, very versatile, use him all over the place. Just a guy, as a fan watching, you're going to be watching him pre-snap to see where he's going to be. What do you think he's going to do? I think that'd be a fun thing to watch as a fan. On the negative is, you mentioned his size, or getting, could he be one of those guys that gets caught up in the traffic, gets caught up in the cloud? The situation where, like last year, they played Jacksonville, they're running 17 times in a row. How good are you when they're coming straight at you? because of his size. You know, and he has a talent. But what about that size? Could he get bigger? But if he gets bigger and adds more weight, does that take away his versatility and kind of make him not a one-trick pony, but more stable in one spot? So I think there's some question marks there. But again, I think if Patriots fans saw him on the field every Sunday, I think they'd be pretty excited.
So those are the players at 4. I included some trade down players here. And this is actually interesting. I'm going to ask you a question before we get into this one. And that is Ashton Genty.
Look, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the running backs, but I'm not taking them at 4. I'm a fan of the running backs. I think running back in a weird way has become one of the more important positions again, back in the NFL again. I look at all the top teams in the league. They all have dominant ground games. Now, some do it with multiple backs. I'm not taking Genty at 4, but I think Genty in the right situation is going to be a playmaker in this league. And if he gets around somebody with a halfway decent offensive line, I think he's going to be a dominant player in the NFL.
Well, so what I was going to ask you, my bad, Kyle, I have the list and I missed Mason Graham. We'll get back to him. Is it a Gus Johnson call? I still might want to hear it.
Unreal talent. And there he goes. Genty into the clear blue. Touchdown.
So you're a no on Genty at 4. I'm kind of with you. I'm not taking a running back that high. Let's say he falls to 9. He's far and away the best player on the board at 9. And there's a chance both tackles are gone. Would you take Genty at 9 if they trade back with the Saints?
Man, if the tackles are gone and he's the best player left and Abdul Carter's gone, the Hunters are gone.
Yeah,
man, I might be tempted. I can't sit here and be a hypocrite and say, no, because I've been so high on running backs. If you can get him later in the first round like that, I think you might have to do it. Because, again, I think this helps out Drake May. It not only helps out Drake May, it helps out the receivers. Because now you run play action with Genty, all of a sudden all the linebackers and everybody's looking at him. And now it opens up your Stephon Diggs on the back end, your Hunter Henrys and your Pop Douglas underneath. It changes everything having an explosive running back there. And you've made some moves to where you've brought in a new center. You've brought in right tackles. You tried to address your offensive line. You brought in more coaches on your offensive line. The draft doesn't end after that. You can still draft guards. You can still draft other positions. And I can't be a hypocrite sitting here and say, no, don't get the running back. If he's there, you're at 9, and you can get Genty at running back, I'm here for it. I'll do it. Sure, why not?
Yeah, so if they take Genty, for me, the biggest plus, again, is they got a tremendously talented player. And they put some juice around Drake May. My biggest concern, 750 touches in 3 years. That's a lot. That's a lot at Boise State. And ideally, you're taking a guy in the first round for, 10, 12-year outlook. Are you getting as much long-term out of an Ashton Genty pick as you would maybe some of the other guys on the board? All right, now let's do Mason Graham, Kyle.
Marks didn't get there. Stoned at the line of scrimmage. Guess who? Mason Graham.
So my biggest plus for Mason Graham, the front was arguably the worst thing the Patriots had last year, and you just continue to upgrade it. Him, Milton Williams, Barmore was at the offseason workouts. Like, you got a bunch of dogs up front, and you're still building to that. I worry about Mason Graham's size, especially. He's no longer going to be playing next to Kenneth Grant, who I think is one of the more underrated players in this draft, and he's still projected to be a first-round pick. I worry about Graham holding up strength-wise against NFL offensive linemen.
Yeah, I think similar here. I think was a dominant interior player. Did it on a high level. And look, I don't know. 2 months ago, we were talking about this kid being a top 5 pick, and now he's kind of sliding out there a little bit. But I think he'd be a big addition to this team. I think Milton Williams kind of changed people's the need for him. But I think having interior linemen, dominant linemen that can stop the run and, again, allow everybody else to eat behind them, I think is huge. Downside, his size. I mean, we've seen very few guys dominate this league in that position and in the trenches like that who are kind of undersized. Could he gain weight? Absolutely. But I think as of right now, you're looking at his size and wondering if he can hold up, unless the Patriots run something similar to what the Eagles did last year, just rotating guys in or out, and you're only putting them out there on third passing situations. But then again, why waste a 4th round pick on a guy, a fourth overall pick on a guy that can't be out there full time?
One more. Let's do Ted McMillan.
T-Mac, give him another 6.
Biggest plus, again, they're addressing the wide receiver position significantly. I don't know that he is the ceiling of Travis Hunter, but I do think he's a player that can be a really good player in the NFL. I don't know about great, and that's kind of my downside. He makes them significantly better at the wide receiver position. I don't know that he's the guy that fully checks the box. Like, I think, and I've made this comparison before, he's your T. Higgins. You still might need to go out next year and draft Jamar Chase in the first round. I think he's a really, really, really good Robin. I don't know if he's Batman.
That's good stuff. I don't know what to say after that, Alex. But I mean,
well, it's like if you're picking the guy that high, you kind of want him to be Batman. But like in this draft, there's not a lot of superheroes.
Yeah, it's true. You need Batman. He's Green Lantern. He's all right. But look, he's a good player. I'm amazed that his name has slipped out of some cases the top 10 in his draft as high as he was early on. I understand the 40 times and all that. Kind of some people base all that on pure. Oh, he's not fast enough. It's like, well, he was a dominant player. He was a good player, extremely athletic, has the hands, has all the tools. I think he'd be a very good player with them. A compliment to Stephon Diggs on the other side, like you mentioned, a good Robin. But I think the downside with him is the explosiveness in the unknown. I think there's still a little unknown with his game, and I think his ceiling for me could be somebody like a Puka Nacua. I think a bigger body, not extremely fast, but still a playmaker. But yet we don't know what Nacua looks like when he doesn't have Cooper Kupp on the opposite side. So I think it's a similar thing with him. But I got a feeling if this kid slides, the further he slides, and he ends up, the further he goes, the better chance he has of ending up with a good quarterback and a good team. If he falls to, God forbid, a Kansas City or a Baltimore or Buffalo, we're going to be looking back on this like that. How did they let this kid get out of there? But I think it's simply because the further he slides, the better opportunity he slides into when he gets into the league.
I'll tell you that I did a mock draft last week, the NFL mock, and I had him going 6 to the Raiders. After that, because I do it I work through a couple different scenarios and decide which one I ultimately want to be like my mock and write about. So I ended up going with him 6 to the Raiders. If he doesn't go there, he could fall quite a bit. He could get into the teens if he doesn't go there. That's really possible. So we will see with him. And that is just kind of a roundup of where we're at with some of the top prospects. There's obviously a few more, but those are the ones we had time to get to.
Sunday Kickoff on the Sports Hub. Brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook.
by. One is to respect the team. Okay, respect the football team and the people that are here. Okay, the second one is, okay, I'd like you to have, when we're in a meeting, okay, I know what the style may be. Just pull your hood down in a meeting. That's all I ask. Okay, I just ask that when we're in a meeting, okay, that we just pull our hood down and we go from there. Be on time. Okay, we just talked about time. Be on time. And if I can't be on time, Christian, what's the easiest thing to do? You would just call, right? It's called communicate, okay? All you got to do is say, hey, something came up, okay? I'm going to be a little bit late. Now, after about 4 or 5 times, that starts wearing off, okay? This is just a once in a while. All it is a respect thing, okay? And the cell phones, okay? We all got cell phones, okay? Most of you have more than one, as a matter of fact. Just leave the cell phone in your bag, but just put the phone away. Okay, and if it rings, don't start coughing. Like, I've been in this league for 25 years. We all know when a cell phone goes off. We don't need to start coughing and doing that. We'll just turn it on and put it on silent, and we'll move on. Leave it in your bag.
He's setting inside the building as the Patriots return for their off-season program. We got, at least at one point, some of that video, some of that speech. We also saw some video of players working out inside the building shared by the social team. Stephon Diggs, and this is voluntary. As Mike Vrabel reminded us multiple times at the owners' meetings. I think he said voluntary about 4 or 5 times in that answer. It is voluntary, though. Stephon Diggs in the building. Christian Barmore is there working out, which seems like a great sign. Anything from that Vrabel speech or just the players we saw in the building, Cerrone, that stood out to you this week?
Man, I'm big on Barmore. I think Stephon Diggs looking explosive like this is very encouraging. But any good signs of Christian Barmore, I think, is huge. I think when he's at 100%, we all know how good he is. And I think he changes everything behind him on defense. So seeing if he's there, if he's healthy, if he's ready to go week 1 and he's back to 100%, for one, not only just for the football side of it, but his own personal life, his health, I think that's huge. And I think him and Diggs are the biggest thing that stands out for me. And that's, I guess, player health and guys coming back healthy 100%. If you get 100% Stephon Diggs ready to go week 1 or get him through camp, I think that's huge. So him and Barmore being there, working out, doing their thing, and being healthy, I think is huge for this Patriots team going forward.
Back to your calls. Let's start off with Peter has a running back thought. Peter.
Barth, you're the best.
Thank you.
The best.
Appreciate it.
Really curious what you think about Cam Scatterbo, and I pronounced that wrong.
No, you got it.
But I think he's just what Vrabel wants from a toughness standpoint on the offense. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the call. There's going to be a race between Vrabel and Harbaugh to see who can draft Cam Scatterbo. So what I like about Cam Scatterbo, first off, I mean, the contact balance is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. He was second in broken tackles last year, only behind Ashton Genty. The dude does not go down. Simply put, the first defender is not going to bring Cam Scatterbo down. He's also, and this is the most underrated part of his game, and honestly, why I think he'll be a top 100 pick. Like, what he does running the ball is all well and good. He's really good in the pass game. Not just as a pass catcher. He's a very capable pass catcher. He's also a very good blocker. And when we talk about the passing down back role, the James White role, which we think is going to come back under Josh McDaniels, there's a lot of guys that looked like Patriots fits because of how well they caught the ball, but they couldn't block. And so they ultimately, the Patriots would look elsewhere. You have to be able to block, not just catch passes to play in that role, and he can do it. He also has some of that intangible leadership stuff. A couple years ago, and he's talked about this, he had a little more selfish approach, kind of got together with the coaching staff last year, talked about who he wanted to be in relation to the program, worked on himself, became a leader of that football team, and you saw it in that game against Texas in the playoff. So that's what I like. He is a little undersized, and he's older. And the thing about an older running back, and we sort of talked about this with Genty, like how long are they around? A 5'10", 219-pound running back at age 23 who runs to contact, that's not a guy that's necessarily going to have a very long NFL career. He might be good. He might have flashes. Like, I like him as a spell back. Rex Burkhead, to me, is a really good comparison. Like, I don't know that he's going to be your primary early down back. I don't know that he's going to be your primary passing down back. If he's the third guy that spells the guy in both of those roles, that's where I'd use him. Are you willing to take that guy in the top 100? Because I think he might go. Like 106, maybe. You probably get him at 77. If you don't take him at 106, I don't think you're getting him.
Yeah.
If he's even still there at 106. But there's an argument to be made that, if you take that guy there, it's going to help Ramondre Stevenson. It's going to help some of these other guys. It's going to help Drake May. I don't hate him. If the Pats are going running back in that range, I think I'd rather have Dylan Sampson.
Mm-hmm.
I think Cam Scatterbo makes more sense for other teams, just the way that they might be built. But I wouldn't be mad if the Patriots took him.
No, I wouldn't be mad at all. And I'm a fan of his. I was a fan before the Texas game, and then sitting there watching him with that performance against Texas, with everybody looking, with everybody knowing he's getting the ball, and they still couldn't. He almost single-handedly beat Texas by himself, which is an amazing thing to do. But he's a great football player, and I think one of the key things, I could be wrong here, I don't think he's ever fumbled in college. Something crazy like that. I think he's never put the ball on the ground. And I think that's a huge asset for any NFL. That's a huge asset to be in the league. If you can hold him to the football, that's a huge notch in your belt when it comes to hanging around the league. And I think the only negative of him is the explosiveness, the speed.
Yeah.
He has the ability to get downhill. He's going to fall forward. He's going to get first downs. He's going to move the chains. But I agree with your point. I think he'd be a great fit in a committee, a running back by committee, a team that uses multiple backs in multiple different ways, so you don't know what's coming. And I think similar to McMillan, the chances of him falling to a good team are better chances of him being a dominant player in the league. For example, this kid that you mentioned, Harbaugh, he falls to Baltimore and he's splitting carries with the way they do things there. It's going to be a problem for the NFL. Any of these teams that use multiple running backs and multiple ways of beating you, I think he'd be a dominant player. If he has to go somewhere where similar to the way he was in college, where everybody knows he's getting the ball, it's going to have a hard time. But of all the running backs, I'm a huge fan of his. But I do like your idea with Dylan Sampson. I think he gives you the explosiveness in there.
He gives you
in multiple ways.
Yeah, I think with Scatto, it's him, Jim Harbaugh at the Chargers. I should have thrown in, this would be a really good committee for him, Dan Campbell in there too. Dan Campbell's probably a big Cam Scatto guy. You put him with Gibbs and Montgomery. Your point on the fumbles, though, is a good one. I think it's one that they are going to weigh. So, for instance, Bashal Tutton from Virginia Tech is another running back a lot of people like. He's one of the fastest running backs in this draft.
Yeah.
Jaden Blue from Texas is a guy I've seen mocked to the Patriots. Both guys with a lot of fumble problems. And so I wonder if, while they check some of the boxes for the Patriots, if that's going to be preventative. Let's get one more call here before we go to the break. Ken in the car on the offensive line. Ken, you there?
Yeah, sorry, guys. Love the show. Thank you.
Thanks.
So one thing, I'm a little frustrated, not by you guys. You guys do a great job, but there's more talk about, like, Campbell's arm length than there is about, like, the other viable left tackle options. I kind of don't include the kid out of Missouri in that because he's always been a right tackle, and he's also sort of a combine darling. But the other guys like Simmons out of Ohio State or the kid from Minnesota, who do you think are other possible left tackle solutions?
So, and thanks for the call, Ken. There's not a lot. That's why you're not hearing a lot about them, because there aren't many. Josh Simmons is a risk to me. He's a significant risk. He's coming. He might be. I think he'd push Campbell if he was fully healthy for the best left tackle in this draft, but he's not healthy. He tore his kneecap, basically. He had the same injury as Cole Strange, which it took a year to come back from. So if you're drafting Josh Simmons, it's not necessarily guaranteed he's going to play as a rookie, certainly not right away. And then is he going to be the same player? I kind of compared it to Dominique Easley, where they got Dominique Easley at 32, not because of his talent. Like, he was immensely talented. He had the talent of a top 15 pick, but he had bad knees. And so they took that risk and it didn't work out. Malcolm Mitchell's another one. So I like Simmons' talent. I just don't think the Patriots can take that kind of risk with a guy coming off that sort of injury. If you're the Niners and you still have Trent Williams in place for a year and you can ease him back in, like, that makes a lot more sense. I think Niners at 11 makes a ton of sense for Josh Simmons. I don't love him for the Patriots unless the medical results like unbelievable. And there's been some talk that he's way ahead of schedule. He'd have to be insanely ahead of schedule for me to be comfortable with that pick. I like Ursery from Minnesota. I like Josh Connerly from Oregon. I think those guys are kind of plug and play starters. I don't know how much upside they have, but I think they can be capable NFL tackles. Kelvin Banks, I think, is better than that. He's kind of a tweener for them. If they trade back to 9, maybe he makes sense, but he's probably going to go like 10 to 15, 18. I don't know why they're picking in that range. But after those guys, that's kind of it.
Yeah.
That's kind of it for left tackles, at least like guys who can realistically start year one. There's 5, 6 guys, and they're all probably going to go in the top 40 picks, so not a ton of options.
Yeah, you're kind of gambling after that point. I'm big on – I like Will Campbell. Will Campbell and Calvin Banks, I think, are the two. They're the two, the All-Americans, the guys we've seen in the again, SEC guys playing against dominant rushers, holding up. And I think Calvin Banks, I think his stock has kind of slid a little bit, but you're not going to get him if you try and wait. Oh, we get him later in the first round, later on, get him in the second round. He's going to be gone. So I think that's a tough spot to land. Because if you really want the top end left tackle, you're going to have to take the Will Campbell, I think, early on if you want one of those top guys.
617-779-0985. You want to join us? Back to your calls next, plus some Patriots Hall of Fame talk on the Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
Sunday Kickoff is on the way on the Sports Hub.
franchise, was the all-time leading scorer when he left here. Look, Julian Edelman deserves to be in. It's tough when you have two guys that should be first ballot the same year.
Yeah.
But I got to default to Vinatieri. I do wonder what's going to end up happening because it's an online vote. Online usually means younger voters. How many of them remember Adam Vinatieri? How many of them have that kind of attachment to him? So I think it's going to be closer than people expect. But it should be Vinatieri, and then the other reason it should be Vinatieri, we saw them do this with Richard Seymour, with Ty Law. They used the Patriots Hall of Fame to kind of help boost guys to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, which wrongly, incorrectly, disgustingly snubbed Adam Vinatieri this year. So let's help him get past that finish line, and then we can all vote for Julian Edelman next year.
Yeah, Adam Vinatieri, to me, I mean, I'm old enough to remember going back to people saying, well, the Patriots, they really aren't that good. And yeah, Tom Brady's really not that good. The real hero of the team is Adam Vinatieri. These things people would say. And it's like, he all the game, how clutch he was, game-winning kicks, all those things. I think he was very important to the success of this team. And I think without him, I don't know how much of those championships do exist. I mean, just having an off kicker would have thrown the whole thing off from the beginning. I think he is very important. I think he's one of the great special team players in the history of the sport. And I've always said if Devin Hester gets into the Hall of Fame, then Adam Vinatieri should be in as a kicker if you're going to put guys in like that. And it's a key component to the league, to the sport. He was key to the success of this team. And I'll take it a step further. No, just not just the Patriots Hall of Fame. I think the image of him, the images you see of him with the game-winning field goals after the Rams or Carolina and everybody kind of around him, I would love to see that as a statue somewhere in Foxborough. I think that's just one of the great images in Patriots history of him making those game-winning field goals to win Super Bowls for this team. And I think he was just too important to this franchise on the field and with the kick-starting the dynasty early on that you got to put him in. Look, Edelman will get his time, but I think it's Vinatieri. He's long overdue.
Also, putting Vinatieri and Parcells in together, because remember, Parcells is going in as the contributor this year, it feels kind of fitting.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So get those two in together. You want to weigh in on that? 617-779-0985. Plus, we'll keep taking your calls on the draft. Andy in Sudbury has a draft thought this morning. Andy.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good. How we doing?
We're doing well. So I was listening to your take on Scatterboo earlier. I'm with you, Alex. I love both him and Sampson. I took the liberty of looking up his stats. He did have 2 fumbles in 2024.
Okay.
So, but he is, I agree with you that he is not fumble prone at all. Now, for the first round, I know you guys are high on Campbell at 4. I'd rather take him in a trade down and maybe go with, and then use that capital to trade back up into the end of the first and take maybe an Emeka Egbuka or a Matthew Golden. Just let me know your thoughts on that. Thank you.
Thanks for the call, Andy. I'll answer the second part first. The thing about trading down and then trading up, did you just blow everything in the trade down to move back up? And now,
you don't have anything.
Right. They have the assets to move up. They don't need to trade down to move up. They have the assets because of that Judon pick. Again, I'm all for future assets, move up next year. But yeah, I don't hate that. Moving up. I don't know that they're going to move up and get Matthew Golden. I think Matthew Golden's more of a trade down candidate from 4 at this point. I think he's going to go in the top 20. But Emeka Egbuka would certainly be a fit. I want to answer the Will Campbell part, but I think Jeff in Rhode Island has something along those lines. Jeff.
Hey, good morning.
Morning.
So there is no version of the MCU multiverse where we can go into next season with Badarian Lowe at left tackle. So I am all for Will Campbell at 4, realizing there may be a team dumb enough out there to actually trade up into number 4. Just looking at 2 different worlds, whether teams are picking off of need or off the best player available in the draft, how far down could Will Campbell actually drop? Assume the Patriots were to trade out of 4. Wait, I'll listen to your call. I'll listen to your answer.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Jeff. This is a really good question and one I think people are underestimating. If you move back to 9, you might lose him and Membu. I think Membu to the Jets at 7 makes a ton of sense. Now, I don't know why I'm giving the Jets credit for doing something that makes sense, but they need a right tackle. They don't have, as far as Membu goes, the biggest question is not a question for the New York Jets. After that, and this is where the arm length thing gets tricky, the Raiders kind of need a guard. Would the Raiders draft him at 6 as a guard? Carolina could use an offensive lineman at 8. The team I'm really looking at, Miami, after what's his name retired, their longtime left tackle. I don't know why I'm blanking on that, but after he retired, they are now, not that their offensive line was in great shape to begin. Teron Armstead, not that their line was in great shape to begin with, but go look at their depth chart. It's not pretty. Mm-hmm. Would the Dolphins move up from 13? Let's say the Patriots move back to 9. That's the talk of the day, right? Mm-hmm. Can you get up from 13 to 8 and steal Will Campbell there?
You know they would love to.
Right. The Cardinals. Jonah Williams is banged up. Can the Cardinals get up from 16 and move up there and take Will Campbell? This is not a good tackle draft. Teams are going to be aggressive to get tackles. I think Will Campbell's floor, because of the Patriots, is 9. I don't think he gets past 9. And not just Patriots. Like, maybe the Saints move back. Maybe the Saints look at it and say, we're not going to have a quarterback this year. Let's move back.
Let's move back, get a bunch of assets.
Right. And now next year we can move up and draft Arch Manning.
Yep.
So I don't think he's falling that far. I really don't. He's going to be the first or second tackle off the board. And the other thing is, maybe the Jets, again, I'm giving the Jets too much credit. We're all talking about how you can't move Armand Membu from right to left. Maybe the Jets draft Will Campbell and move him from left to right because they're the Jets. It'd be a very Jets thing to do.
And it's funny you say that. I think we give a lot of these teams that are in the top 10 way too much credit of making common sense moves. I jokingly said on a podcast earlier last week, shout out to Matt Couture and them, it wouldn't shock me. I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants, because of the Saquon Barkley saga, go out there and take Gentry. I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants jumped in there and did something as wild as that, something we haven't seen, just to kind of fill the need of filling the hole left behind from losing Saquon Barkley. Go out and draft Gentry and throw the whole draft into shambles. Like, I think we can't just assume all these teams are going to make the right decision. No one saw Michael Penix going to Atlanta after the Kirk Cousins situation. There's so many things that happen every year, and you're like, wait, what? Why they do that? Like this, it's going to happen, and it's going to throw off the whole first round. So like you said, it would be a Jets thing to do, to completely go out there and just throw a grenade into the whole situation and just set themselves back while setting everybody else up for success. So I wouldn't be surprised at that at all.
I don't think 9 is the absolute lowest for me for Campbell. Whether it's teams trading up or teams just taking him because he's talented, he's not falling that far. You can move back to 9 and you'll still get, one of Walker, Campbell or Membu. I don't know that that's a guarantee. If you trade back, you're absolutely taking that risk. All right. Paulie in the truck, final call of the day. Paulie, what do you got?
Hey, what's happening, brother? Listen, you and Milliken should start your own show called The Nerd Herd. I mean, you're obviously you're separated at birth, as you look much alike with the beard and the glasses. You're both well-mannered, lovable sorts, and you're both so smart, you're stupid. Very well-spoken, very articulate. Really, you guys would be such a team. But anyway, I get Vinatieri over. I get Vinatieri, then Edelman.
Yep.
Okay, Hall of Fame. I'm so glad. I've been rallying for Bill Parcells to come in and bury the hatchet for the past few years. Guys like me, Teddy Johnson, and some others. I mean, that's what's right. There would have been no dynasty without Parcells' guys. I got a list of reasons, the names of why the Patriots started up. We had that start that they did, and then the dynasty became apparent, was because the list of reasons would be Law and Johnson, Brewski, and the rest. I mean, I can go right. There's a ton of them. Okay, and you don't get off and running without that man. All right, and I really think if they can trade down. I think it's a popular belief, and I'm on board with it. If they can trade down a few picks and still land Will Campbell, That's a guy I think that's what they need. But the battle inside their minds is going to be to try to get that edge guy, because if they get that solid edge guy, I was hoping they was going to sign Sweat from Philadelphia. That defense would have been set. That's you want to set the defense and get Walker or Carter if he falls to you. And then cobble it together on that offensive line on the left side. Maybe Simon Smith, bringing in drafting another offensive tackle that you might think has a little bit of talent, and in coaching these guys up. Coaching Vidarian Lowe and the guy they draft up with a couple of the best offensive line minds in the game was Skarnecchia and Marone. They might be thinking they might do that and get that guy in the second round from Iowa State so they can get the ball up quickly between Bob Douglas, between the fellow from Iowa State and Diggs. The ball can come out of his hand quickly.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Paulie. I do want to address a lot of good stuff in there where he talks about, are they going to want to take the edge rusher over the tackle? And they probably should take Campbell, but is the edge rusher going to be a draw? We talked a little bit earlier about how the tackle depth isn't there. And if you miss out on the first 4 or 5 guys, you're probably not getting a guy who's going to start year one. On the flip side of that, and this goes back to what you talked about earlier, where, is this as weak of a draft as people think? This edge class rules. There are going to be guys that go on day 2 that would usually be a first-round pick. There are going to be guys that go in that 75 to 100 range that some years would be a top 50 pick. So if you want to really play the value game in this draft and you want to get an edge rusher, if you take Will Campbell at the top, you can still get a guy and I don't think all of these guys will be there at 38, but if they trade up a little bit or, if they don't mind their choice, right? Guys like Nick Scorton, Donovan Ezeraku, Princely Umanmielen, Jack Sawyer, Landon Jackson, maybe aren't as polished right now as some of those edge guys you'd get at the top of the draft, the Michael Williams and Abdul Carter. I think Ezeraku has legit upside. I think Scorton has legit upside. I think Umanmielen has legit upside. They're a little further away, but you don't need to win. You're not trying to win a Super Bowl this year. If they become stars by year 3, great. I'm fine being a little more patient. Whereas if you take Abdul Carter at the top, that tackle equivalent maybe doesn't exist. Right by the time you get to 38. So if they really want an edge guy, it's a good year to need an edge guy. You can absolutely be patient at that position. Now, I will say it does drop off after the top 100. It doesn't have the day 3 depth that the defensive line does. So you got to get that guy probably on day 2, but day 2 is the sweet spot. If they, day 1 ends and they don't have an edge rusher, I'm not going to be super worried. I still think they're going to get somebody that can make an impact year 1. Maybe not be a star, but make an impact year 1 and then potentially be a star down the road.
And what I'll say to that real quick, with the depth of the defensive ends, the edge rushers, if there's going to be a flood of edge rushers coming in the NFL, you better make sure you get the good left tackle. That way, those guys aren't eating you alive for the next decade or so, because you're going to have a league full of dominant edge rushers. So I think you need it'd be great for you to go out and get the good left tackle now as opposed to waiting.
That's a great take. Let's wrap it up on that take. That's an excellent one. We will be back. Next week's our final show before the draft. Second to last show of the year. We will be on Sunday after, but the final pre-draft show of the Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff. We will try to sort it all out. And then, of course, we'll have the draft reaction the week after that. So if you missed any of the show, Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff, wherever you get your podcasts, on the Sports Hub YouTube channel as well. You can find my stuff, 985thesportshub.com. Have a new Patriots Hub podcast coming tomorrow. I'll be on with Zolak and Bertrand on Friday as well. And then I'll talk to you all next Sunday. For Cerrone Battle, for Kyle Fabrizio behind the glass, I'm Alex Barth. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Peace.
More Sunday Kickoff coming up on the Sports Hub.
With over 30 TVs plus wings, burgers, and beers served by the Hooters girls, there's no better place to watch the C's playoff games than your local Hooters. Don't miss a